Hey guys, I'm Aditya Thakur and welcome to another video in our Python playlist. In this video, we'll get started with tuples in Python and we'll first look at how can you declare them, what are the differences between tuples and lists, and then we would go on to check out the different methods that you can use and access the different elements in them. So without any further delay, let's get started with the video. A quick introduction to Newton School. It is a platform which prepares you for your career in tech. They have courses designed for freshers, working professionals, and also for women with no tech background. They'll first train you for 6 months and help you become an amazing full stack developer. And Newton School has a network of 300 plus great companies who hire from them. So after you are trained, they'll ensure that you get placed in some of the best companies. And the best part is that it is a pay after placement program, so you don't have to pay anything unless you are placed. Then there is the Newton School Launchpad, which is basically an initiative taken by Newton School to provide people with no tech background courses absolutely for free. So this video would also be available on the Launchpad section of Newton School. There you can access the different exercises. Let's get started. So we are talking about Python collections and we have seen lists in Python along with the different methods in the previous video. In this video, we'll get started with tuple. So it is a collection which is ordered and unchangeable. So unlike lists were changeable, as in you can change the different elements, but tuples are not changeable. Once they are made, then they cannot be changed. They also allow duplicate elements. So tuples are used to store multiple items in a single variable. They are ordered but unchangeable. They do allow duplicate values, and tuples are written with round brackets. Unlike unlike lists, lists were written with square brackets, whereas tuples are written with round brackets. And to determine, we can use the length function. Once to create a tuple with only one item, you have to add a comma, otherwise it wouldn't recognize it. And tuple items can be of any data type and you can access by using the index number. So let's take it to code instead of just reading it in theory. So I will go to newtonschool.co. And here, if you do not have an account, you can quickly sign up. But since I already have one, I'll just log in to my account. Once you are here on this page, you need to go down to the playground section under your profile. After it loads up. So we'll go to the playground section and go down to algorithm playground, and you can create a new playground or open an existing one. I'll quickly create a new one, and this should open up to this code editor, which has an input section and an output. So before we go and type the code, let's select our compiler, which is Python 3.8.1, and let's get started. So how do you declare a tuple? We can write this tuple. So unlike strings, unlike lists that we were declaring in the previous videos, we were using square brackets, but for a tuple you need to use circle brackets. And you can again use the names of the different students. And this is a tuple. So now you can access each of these elements using the square brackets. So yeah, you have to declare them with circle brackets, but to index or to access any element in a tuple, you need to use the square brackets. Let's try running this once. And it should print out the first element in the tuple, which is annum. Now going back to our points, they are ordered, they are unchangeable. Let's try changing certain values in it. So I'll type in this tuple. I want to change the first element and make it Ayush, right? So what you will notice is it will give an error. Tuple object does not support item assignment. Means this value can't be updated, unlike it if it were a list. Let us try with the list once and see if it works. So with the list it works fine, as in we don't get any error, but if it is a tuple you will get an error because these values are unchangeable. They are ordered, which means that tuples have a defined order. That order will not change. Like after you have defined it, this order won't change, and these are like unchangeable. That means you can't add or add a new item to it, replace an existing item. So they are once defined, they are defined. You can update the order as in when you're sorting and such stuff. So they also allow duplicates, as in there could be this, while declaring you can put in two same names, they would allow that. And this is like the basics about tuples as such. We'll talk about indexing. We can use square brackets. This is true for both lists as well as tuple. You need to use square brackets to access the elements. You can also access the last element using a negative, right? I'll get rid of this statement here. And now if I run it, so this should print out like the last element to the console. Go over to standard output, and there you'll have it, the last element. So you can do like this. Then there is also, you can print it in range, as in the range that we had seen. So you can go from like the first to the fourth element and print. So it should print out the last two elements, Aman and Aryan, and the return type. Let us check the return type once. So I'll wrap it with a type function to check what is the return type. And now if I print it, so it would show you class tuple, which means that whenever you try to print elements using the range, it would return a tuple itself. So this is like the basics of the range. We can also do the similar range with the negative values, as in we can go from the last element and come back to the first. So once a tuple is created, we cannot change its values. They are unchangeable or unmutable, as it's also called. So there is a workaround, as in if you really want to change the items of the tuple, you can convert the tuple into a list, change the list and convert it back to a tuple. So let us see like how it's done. What we will basically do is we'll use the list constructor. So if this tuple is there, I can create a new list, and I'll use the list constructor to convert this tuple into a list. And then I can print out that list, new list, right? And to update the items, I'll use the basic indexing. I'll change the new list first element with a different name. Let us say like Ayush, right? And after it's done, I'll use the tuple constructor. I call it new tuple, and use this constructor tuple and wrap this new list in it. So I'll get back my constructor. I'll get a new tuple now, and I can print that out. Can print both this tuple as well as the new tuple. Let's run it once. So you will see like the first to print out is this list, the new list that we created, and then we'll update the item. We'll add Ayush, so it will print out the old one as well as the new one. So we saw like tuples don't allow changing elements, but there is a workaround, as in we can convert it to a list and then print it out. This is like a normal workaround. If you try to do it without that, it would give you an error, which is like the feature of tuple, as in if you do not want to modify the items, you can create a tuple instead of a list. So let us try removing the element also. It would also not be allowed inside the tuple. So let's go back and try to like remove an item. If I run this now, it should give an error, object has no attribute removed, because we cannot remove an element. Similarly, if you want to declare some elements that you do not want to change, you can do it inside a tuple. If you want to modify them, you will have to convert it to a list by using the constructor, and then again converting that list back to converting that list back to the tuple. So when we create these tuple, what we do is assign values. So this is called as the packing of a tuple. And in Python, we are allowed to extract these values back into variables. So this is called the unpacking. How to do this unpacking? Basically, what we can do is we have this tuple made. Now we can create variable like name1, name2 and name3 and assign this to this tuple. Now I can print out each of these names. Let's try running this program once. And you'll see like the different elements have been extracted. So what we are doing is since there were 3 elements in this tuple, we were assigning each one of these variables, each element of this tuple to these different variables, and then we were printing these out. So this is known as the unpacking of a tuple. And if number of variables is less than the number of the values, so we can add a star to the variable name, and the values will be assigned as a list, right? So let us say like there were more names in it, as in there was also an Ayush, so I can use an asterisk symbol here. And now if I print it out, you'll notice like since there were 4 names but only 3 variables with us, so we can put an asterisk sign in front, and what this would do is it would make this last variable into a list, and all the elements that were left would be automatically assigned to it as a list. So you will see like the list printed out to console. So this is known as the unpacking of a tuple, and we also see like how to do it when there are excess of elements in it. So after this, we need to, if there were a case like where we had 2 different tuples and we wanted to join them together, so we can use the concatenation. Let us create 2 tuples first, new one, and it has the last 2 elements. Now if I want to concatenate these 2 tuples, I can simply use print tuple plus new tuple, right? Let's try running this once, and it should print out it whole as a new tuple. So this is how it works basically. And we can also multiply the content of a tuple with a given number of times, and we can do this by using the multiplication symbol. So what I can do is I'll create inside this new tuple, I'll type in this dot tuple into 2, and when I print this new tuple out to console, what you will notice is that the elements have been multiplied. Now there are 2 Aditya and 2 Aman. whatever initially only one. So you can also multiply the tuples, multiply the elements. We also saw like how to join the different elements. Other than this, we can use this tuple dot count. Aditya. Okay. Let's try running this once. And it shows like we can use the dot count function to count how many times a particular value occurs in the specified tuple. So in this case, Aditya occurs only once, so it prints out 1 to the console. And we can also do like index function to check out the index. So it should print out 0 because Aditya is at the starting of our tuple. So that is like the basic functions in it. And this is everything about tuples. And yeah, so we covered like the different functions. We saw like how they are not modified, and the different features of a tuple. You can use them when you do not want an list of elements to change, so you can create a tuple instead. But if you want to change them, you can convert it into a list and modify the elements. Then we saw the functions, count, index, and others. So I hope this video helped you, and please do subscribe to the channel to stay updated as we post new videos in our Python series. Thank you so much for watching.